Welcome to this episode of YouTube where we're celebrating Boltz's second birthday. And this is my grandson Gavin, who was the first person to actually meet Boltz. And so we're going to go through kind of a little bit of a video history of Boltz's time with us here at the center. And again, Boltz was one of the oldest pups that we have ever worked with from the standpoint of socialization. Normally we work with pups between the ages of 12 to 13 days of age, and Boltz was about a month old when we acquired him. Now, he had been socialized. That means that the facility, the USDA facility where we acquired Boltz, he was being handled and had been bottle fed, so we knew he was socialized. He was relaxed around people. But we did find that he was a little bit skittish of some of the activity going on around the center, and so we did have to do a lot of extra work with him. But you can see here that he's a relaxed little pup and healthy, and he's got a good formation. And one of the other things that we look at in age difference in pups here is the ears are already erect, meaning standing up. When we normally get pups, their ears are kind of folded over at that really young neonate stage. So here he is, past the transition stage into the socialization stage. So again, everything is new to him. He's going to investigate things, and we wanted to make sure that he was very comfortable in the environment in which he was raised. This is the inner kennel. When we do get pups at a very young age, we do keep them inside because of the temperature. So this is inside the wolf lab, and it is where we maximize the socialization process. So one thing that we did in 2012 that was a little bit different is we did raise a dog pup with the wolves, and well, not necessarily a pup. Oscar was a 2-year-old stray that we had picked up at a local shelter, and we used Oscar to try to help bridge the gap between the human and the canid. So that helped a lot with Boltz's shyness, and certainly it was an easier way to manage pups that they would follow Oscar pretty much anywhere we wanted them to go. And so that was a nice thing, and certainly we've used dogs before, but not to the extent where it was on a daily living environment with the pups. So that was April. And again, they were born March. Boltz was born March 17th. Luna was born March 25th. So she'll get her time and feature a video. By May, you can see the size of the feet of these pups are definitely something to behold from the standpoint of growth. And here we have a howl. They actually howled quite young. We have had the youngest recorded howl we ever had was Grizzer at 13 days of age. So they instinctually know how to howl, and they also instinctually display predatory behavior. Something else that we don't teach them. We use squeaky toys to stimulate that behavior by having a toy that squeaks, that gives them the stimulus to head shake and pounce, and maybe not quite the coordination just yet. But you see that undercoat is filling in. There are days when they are hot, and July is a warm time for wolves, so the guard hairs have come in. That determines the coloration that they have, and then by August those undercoat, what we call the secondary layer of hide, comes in. This is actually July 30th. We did the introduction in 2012. And you can see a difference between the way Boltz is greeting the adult wolves and the way Luna is. Boltz was very, very submissive in his greetings. His head was low, his tail was down, his ears were down. He was licking the sides of the adult wolf's face. Boltz benefited from the fact that he interacted with Oscar the dog, who taught him about dominance. Luna was separated from Oscar because of some of the medical conditions she had, and that means that she had a little bit of a different start and continues to have a little bit of different relationship with the adult wolves versus Boltz. Again, here by September, getting a full winter coat. He's nearly full grown, but he does have that juvenile features of the face. The muzzle and the skeletal structure does not formally complete itself well until their first and second year. So we'll see a little bit of that growth that occurs. By October of 2012, again, they're 6 months of age. They're going into the winter, and the hormones, even though we do spay and neuter here, are stimulated. Pup mates like to wrestle and develop their predatory skills as well as their dominant skills, and Luna, being the only female, tends to have no limitations on her dominance, so she is always wrestling and grabbing and pulling on Boltz. Now, by November of 2012, what essentially was been happening was that Aiden, who is the pack leader, was extremely protective and guarding of the pups during their first, actually since he met them in April at the fence and through the fence. And as the first year progressed, Boltz took advantage of that opportunity to be interacting with the male rank order. When Aiden was busy with Denali, he would kind of try to assert himself and to gain a little posture and a little status over Aiden. Of course, as soon as Aiden was free, Boltz would get a little bit of hard muzzle bite or quick muzzle bite, or in this case maybe a hip slam or something like that to kind of put him back in his place. But Boltz was looking for opportunities to climb rank, and he saw Aiden being occupied, or what appears in our interpretation that Aiden was occupied with not only Luna dominance but having to keep Denali in line, and that created a little bit of tension within the pack in that first winter. And you'll see Aiden really kind of asserting his position over Boltz, Denali, and Luna. Now, that includes Staff as well. That short little clip was the Boltz going towards the camera, and we got to be mindful that Staff have to watch these testing young juveniles as well. But by that winter, January, in the height of winter, we saw Boltz really develop a strong social bond with Aiden. A lot of facial licking, same way that he did when he was a pup. He really started to interact in a positive social way. And one thing that we did discover was that Aiden was kind of keeping Denali in line, and so Boltz was gaining a little bit more confidence, a little bit more status. Here he's eating on a beaver and a little intimidated yet, but Aiden would still block Denali, and whether that was protectionism for Boltz or whether that was Aiden not wanting Denali to get any status, Boltz gained things from that. Boltz gained some status from that. And so by April, Aiden was still tolerant to these pups, but they were getting to be a little bit obnoxious, is the best way to describe it. So we started seeing, by July of 2013, some limits being put on Boltz, and Boltz again continued to showing subordinate, what we call standing urinations. Those are subordinate urinations, not showing any dominance whatsoever. So August, October, into the second really winter of their maturing from 1 to 2 years of age, still obnoxious yearlings, and certainly seeing Boltz trying to test Aiden, and Aiden having a definitive response. And after really this point, in late fall of 2013, Boltz didn't really try again. Boltz continues to squat urinate or to stand urinate, which is a subordinate posture. He does a little bit of a scrape there in the straw beds, and which more startles him than really broadcasts his scent. We found the winter of January through March of 2014 to see a subordinate, submissive 2-year-old male who is part of the male rank order and is actually probably in the middle of the male rank order, not because of his personality trait, but because Aiden is very, very dominant in keeping Denali in order, and that allows Boltz to be in the middle of Aiden and Denali. If it were just up to Boltz, he would be at the bottom of the rank order, and that's his interaction, that's his behavioral trait, interacting with Denali. Probably has a lot to do with the fact that he has a pack mate, Luna, or a litter pup mate, Luna, who continues to assert dominance over him as well. So that's where we are. That's the profile of Boltz, and we again can't believe it's been 2 years since we acquired these pups, but we are celebrating Boltz's birthday, March 17th, 2012, and we are learning from him every day. He's an amazing pup, and certainly the bottom of the rank order doesn't mean that you're out. He's an equally important member of this pack. So that's it for this week's YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.